Well, good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. We're here for another session on today. It's basic dryer repair. We're going to be dealing with the Whirlpool uh, dryer. We're going to talk about some of the about the top six reasons that you would find a problem with a Whirlpool dryer. Um, we're going to take a break a little bit whenever we get into it. I'm going to put this on a full screen so that I can make sure that I do everything correctly. About probably go a third of the way in. I'll stop and ask for some questions, and then whenever we get through about 2/3 of the way in, I'll go ahead and ask for some more. Um, if anybody else has any questions on what we've gone through, you're welcome to type your any questions that you have into it. And what will happen is whenever I get, whenever I exit out of full screen, I will make it so that I can answer your question. Okay. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Okay. So let's talk about our meters. Okay. We need to, if we're going to be diagnosing anything, we need to know the meter basics. Okay. Meters are designed to measure three properties found in a working circuit. Okay. Uh, Resistance, voltage, and current flow. This is why a meter is called a multimeter. They can perform multiple functions and measure different kinds of voltage and current, AC or DC. Also, you can also, it will also, depending on the meter that you have, you may be able to measure amperage, but that's kind of part of the others. Okay, so let's talk about resistance. Resistance is the opposition to current flow a component has that's measured in units called ohms. The electrical component or devices have a resistance value. The symbol for the ohms on your meter is the upside down horseshoe. Okay. Some of the examples that there are is the inductor circuit, the circuit board, the power supply, resistors, and diodes. Those are all part of the resistance. Okay. Voltage, the electrical potential or potential differences between 2 points measured in units called volts. The symbol for voltage on your meter is a V. This potential can either be DC, which is direct current, or AC, which is alternating current. If you look at your meter actually will have DC and AC voltage. Make sure that you do not turn it on DC volts and then go to measure AC volts. That will blow your fuse in your meter. A lot of the times, it will also cause if I go and I'm trying to measure resistance, and I have not unplugged the component, I will blow my meter then because you've got it set to ohms, and you'll blow it because of the resistance. You're not measuring resistance. Okay, so current. Current is the flow of electrons through a conductor, and it's based on a source provided in the resistance to that current flow of the circuit. Okay, current measures in amperage. The symbol for current is A. Okay, so on your meter, if you have an A, that's for your amps. Okay, what will I be doing whenever I'm checking amperage? Okay. Why would I use that? A good example of that is, and the light bulb in the room is not a good example. A good practical example of what you're going to be measuring that would require amperages is an igniter. An igniter usually runs somewhere between 3 to 3.3 amps that it will pull. You have to check on your wiring schematic. It will tell you how much amperages you should be having. So that, but in this example, okay, this is a light bulb in your home. When you turn the light switch to the on position, you complete the current flow from the source to the switch, which is the light bulb, and then to the light bulb, and then back to the fuse box, which is the ground. Okay, that's for AC. Okay, let's talk about the meter's role. As identified above, it is critical to remove the operating source from the unit being diagnosed. Okay, I'm taking the power out of the unit. Unless I'm measuring voltage. This is for resistance. Okay, the most common method is to unplug the unit from the wall outlet or turn off the appliance's power at the circuit breaker. Okay, measuring resistance. Okay, once the power is removed, you can use the meter's ohms function and the meter's internal battery to check a component. Okay, so here's an example for the this is in the looks like a 200 ohm resistance. So I can check my resistance, and I will know my resistance from let's say that I'm checking a resistor. Okay, I will know what my resistor should read by the bands that are on my resistor. Okay, the bands tell me what my reading should be. Okay, so we're talking about excuse me, we're talking about a dryer now. Okay, so this is the typical on the back of your unit. This is the typical terminal block layout. Okay, if you notice, there is where it says earth ground. Many of the companies today, there is a wire that goes between that screw and up there to the center where it says neutral. You may have to break that wire off if I am trying to provide an earth ground. Okay, I should have an L1, which is a power lead. There is an L2 that is also a power lead. I should have a neutral and then a earth ground. That is on a 4-pronged plug. If I have a 3-pronged plug, I will just have an L1, an L2, and a neutral. And then that wire it'll be a wire or a piece of copper that goes between the neutral and the earth ground that you don't need to take off. Okay, what is an earth ground? Okay, a definition of an earth ground is exactly what it says. I mean, it's basically it's a ground physically and electrically connected to the earth via conductive material such as copper, aluminum, or aluminum alloy. Okay, mentioned previously, the terminal ground, okay, the earth ground, is physically tied to the chassis, which in turn is connected to the ground wire with the power cord, which is finally connected to the earth via the 3-pronged plug. Okay, and what does it look like? Okay, this is an earth ground. I am getting ready to install a power pole for the shop at my here because I've had some issues. So I have a power pole that is being delivered today. I will be setting that up. If you notice, right in the center, there is a wire that goes all the way down. Okay, if you look at it, there is a call out of that wire. Okay, that goes down into a 6, at least a 6. Usually it's an 8-foot copper. Mine is I have copper, and so I drive that into the ground. I can then tie that off. There's a connector that is a copper connector So I will use that copper connector to tie my earth ground into my earth ground wire to complete the circuit so that I actually have an earth ground. Okay. On which I'm going. This is the problem that I have right now. Is my third prong physically is connected to the earth ground, and right now I don't have that. I'm going to rectify that, and by putting this new power pole in. Okay, this is with the earth ground. It shows it right here. Okay, so the dryer. Let's talk about, like I said at the very beginning, we had said that we were going to be discussing the Whirlpool dryer. Okay, mine is actually not a Whirlpool dryer. Mine is actually a Kenmore dryer. Okay, but Whirlpool makes Kenmore. Whirlpool also makes a Manna, Maytag, Roper, and there's other brands out there that are produced by Whirlpool. Okay. Look for these things whenever I'm looking. I'm thinking that I've got the right unit. Okay, so the control panel is on the top, and the lint filter is on the right hand side, and it has a little door. Okay, I stick my hands into the door, and I can remove the lint filter. This needs to be done every single time that I put a load of clothes in. Why? Because what happens is if I do not clean the lint filter every single time, then I run the risk of whenever I remove it. I have seen it where I went in and was working on somebody's dryer, pull the lint filter out, and it was packed in there. And my guess is, or what I had to do was I had to clean the lint trap. I mean, it was just a mess. So remove this lint filter after every load. You need to tell the customer that. Tell them that sometimes it may not look like you need to. Oh, I don't need to do that right now, but that's not true. Okay, so we have the control panel on the front. We have the lint filter on the right hand side of the dryer. Okay, the other thing is the doors on the front, which most doors are on the front anyway. On all our own dryers are all okay. So the back of the dryer has a similar configuration. Oh boy, I misspelled that one. Sorry about that, guys. So if you look, I have a heater box on the right hand side, and then if you look down on the left side, that's where the lint goes. Okay, and if I don't keep that cleaned, it'll get down into the blower. If it will also get down and can cause a fire. So we have to be very careful and make sure that the lint trap is cleaned after every use. Okay. Here's 7 things to check whenever I'm working on a Whirlpool or a Whirlpool-like dryer. Okay. Like I said, mine is actually a Kenmore dryer. Okay. So let's check the voltage and it should read 220 volts. If I go between the two hot legs, the L1 and the L2, I'm sorry, the L1 and the L2, okay, that should get 220 volts. Then I can go between L1 to neutral, I should get 110. If I get if I go between L2 and neutral, I should also get 110 volts. That will tell me if I'm dropping my neutral. Okay. The L1 to L2 should read, like I said, 220 volts. This one happened to be 247 volts. Okay. Then I go between L1 and neutral and L2 and the neutral, and I should get the 123 volts on this one. Should be somewhere around 120. Okay. Then if all of that checks out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to check the thermal fuse. I'm sorry, guys. It's a little warm in here. So I'm going to look at I'm going to pull the wiring schematic. Okay. so I can get a visual representation of the physical connections and the physical layouts of the electrical circuit. If it shows, it will show me the electrical wires and the components that are interconnected, and can also show where the components are connected into the system. Okay. Let's talk about our gas igniter in the dryer. It should be reading 3 ohms. Okay. So if I go in and I take my meter and I clip it to the back of to the one of the leads, not both, just one side of the leads, I should read somewhere around 3 to 3.3 ohms. If it's anything lower than 3 ohms, it will not send a signal down to the gas valve to tell it to go ahead and open. I have run into many a time that the glow bar would glow, but it would not send a signal down to the gas valve for it to open. Okay, so if I get 3.3 ohms, or I get 3 ohms, somewhere in those two things, and I do not get an ignition, then I need to go back and I need to check the connectors that go into the gas valve. Okay, I need to ohm those 2 connectors out going across and see going to the lowest scale, or you can go down to the continuity where it buzzes, and that I can do that, and I just on the gas dryer on the valve, I can actually go between those 2 terminals, and I should get a beeping sound. Okay, if I do not get a beeping, that tells me that I've got to replace the gas valve. Okay, and that's about it on a gas dryer. Then we're going to go and some of the other things that we need to check. If that checks good, I'm going to have, okay. So here's one of the things. This is one that we had checked, and it was obvious whenever we unhooked whenever we undid it from the bar. We actually saw that it was burnt. So, okay, so our amperage draw should be at least 3.1 ohms. Okay, now for anything else that we're going to do, we're going to unplug the unit. Okay, at this point, I've got to unplug the unit. Okay, so I'm going to stop right there for just 1 second, and I'm going to get on my high horse or my soapbox, whatever you want to call it. If I am a technician and I am in a customer's home, I am going to put down something to prevent scratches from the unit, okay, on the floor. Because you can get scratches even on something as light as a dryer, okay? Make sure that you protect yourself and your company by putting down floor protection, okay? If I don't, then I have to deal with a customer if I found scratches on the floor. I will tell you that whenever I am going into a home and I see that I'm going to have to pull something, I will actually push the dryer back, take my light and look up under it to make sure that there are no scratches. If there are scratches, I will take pictures of those scratches. I will call the customer in and I will show the customer that there is already scratches. Once again, I'm protecting myself and the company. Whenever I do this, I am going to denote that on my ticket, my service order. I'm going to make sure that I put that down because my boss does not know that I told the customer that. I have had people call me and tell me, hey, listen, your guy scratched my floor. The only thing that saved the technician, because the company that I worked for, any physical damage that was done to the home, that was on the technician, and it came out of his paycheck. So always make sure that you're protecting yourself, your company, and the customer, so that I don't damage anything. Okay. So there are two configurations for getting to the thermal fuse. Okay. Some of the thermal fuses are located on the box. Some of them are located on the back of the dryer. Mine actually was on the back of the dryer, that's on the left side. Okay. The number one reason for this thermal fuse to trip is lint buildup. Okay. So if I go in and I see that that I have power to the plug, but I've got nothing on the coming out of the unit won't start, I'm going to go to the thermal fuse. Okay. I'm going to unplug one of the wires and I'm going to go across the thermal fuse. Actually, just go ahead and unplug both the wires and then go across the thermal fuse. Put your meter to the lowest setting. Okay. I put mine on the tone, and I checked across that, and I had no tone. That tells me that thermal fuse is bad. If I have a tone, then I have to go to the next thing on the list. Okay. So to check continuity through the thermostat. Okay, there we go. I got ahead of myself here. If you receive a tone, the fuse is good. If you don't, the fuse is bad and you have to replace it. Okay, I'm going to take and place a lead on the terminal and then place the other lead on the other terminal. Okay. If you receive a tone, the fuse is good. We've already been through this. Okay. If you need to replace one of the thermostats or this thermal fuse, I can do that as a kit. That's the part number for a Whirlpool thermal fuse, and your other. It comes all in one big kit. Okay, so I'm going to secure the thermostat with the 2 screws. Once I do that, I'm going to replace the high limit thermostat, which it may be additional wire. Have to be sure that I make sure that is that if it doesn't have this additional wire, because what happens is the new thermal fuse doesn't plug into the heater itself. So it actually I have to connect the other leg to the heater. This is your thermal fuse here in the center at the top, and then down below is your heater. Okay. I install the new thermal fuse by securing it with the screw as you see right here. I'm going to reconnect all the wires. I'm going to set my meter to the highest ohms scale. It should read between 30 and 100 ohms. Okay. The next thing is to push the push to start switch. Okay. Before we get to that, I'm going to make a quick break and take a look and see, does anybody have any questions so far? If you have any questions, type them into the comments section at the bottom, on the bottom right side. Okay. Looks like we do not have any questions at this time, so we're going to go back and we're going to continue on. Okay. So to check this switch, I have to depress the start switch. Okay. So it requires one of two things. Okay. If I keep a roll of tape, which I always kept a roll of tape in my truck, I can take and use that and tear me off a piece that I can do the exact same thing that's shown in this photo. Okay, so I can tape it so that I can make sure that it's depressed, because I've got to have both of my hands. So I have to have either a second person or a piece of tape. Okay, Mine was always a piece of tape because I never had anybody riding with me. Or if I did, it was very rare. So I'm going to take and I'm going to make sure that is depressed, that piece of tape keeps that button depressed. Whenever I do that, I'm going to go to the back. So I'm going to have to, like I said, I'm going to have to pull the unit out. I'm going to have, and I know that I'm going to need that. I'm going to have to do this next. So I actually have it sitting in the floor. I do my tape. I'm going to have to take all there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think there's 7 screws in the back. It may be a few more or maybe a few less, depending on which one it is. But this is at the very top in the control panel. So I've got to take those screws off, okay? I'm going to remove them. Then what I want to do is I want to remove the plug, okay? As you see right here, this is a Mullinax connector. There are 4 wires in this Mullinax connector, okay? I need that on this one right here. I'm going to check between the 2 blue wires, okay? But the one thing that I need to know is, since this one has 4 wires, where am I going to be checking? Where does what sends the signal to the control that I'm ready to go? So what I have to do is I have to pull my wiring diagram out. I have to look at my wiring diagram and see which of those 2 leads are the 2 leads that go to that should tell that should tell the controller that I'm good. Okay. If something happens and all that checks good, I undo my tape, clean up any residue from the tape. Then I'm going to move to the door switch. Okay. I have to make sure that the door switch is actually functioning properly. Normally, what you can do is you can just open the door and click the switch. Okay. Usually you can hear that, but does it always work that if the switch clicks, it's good? No. You may have to take you may have to go to and lift the top and actually pull one of the wires off and go between that switch and click it to see if it actually is telling the controller that it's good. Okay. Which is also the timer. Okay. If you hear the motor, okay, if I'm going to lift the lid, here's how I have to lift the lid. Okay. Here's a picture of the dryer. I have to take 2 screws out. That's incorrect. Those 2 screws are the ones that are on the right side, not the ones that are in the bottom there. I'm going to take the 2 screws off right there. And I'm going to insert a putty knife into the corners. As you can see right there, there's a putty knife on the left one that's being inserted into that one spot. Whenever you're using your putty knife, you may not hit the right spot. You will know because it will stop. Okay, then I'm going to have to push on my putty knife, and I can lift up on. If you look on the side, on the far left side, there the person is pulling up on that so that it works, so that it releases. Then I'm going to go to the right side, and I'm going to do exactly the same thing with the right side. Like I said, if the 2 Phillips head screws are not the ones that are picked that I have the arrows to, the 2 Phillips head screws are these 2 that are right here on the top. I apologize. I messed that up. Okay. So one of the other things that I need to do while I've got this up and I've checked the door switch, and the door switch checks out. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to stick my finger under the belt and see if I can get my finger up under it. It should be very difficult for me to do that. If the belt is broken or off, it'll be whenever you lift up, it'll be easy for you to lift up. Then I can either keep pulling up and it will tell me that it came off the track, or it will just come out in my hand, and I know that I've got to replace the belt. Okay. Next, let's check the timer. Okay. So let's go back right here. Okay. So after I've done this, okay, and the belt I've verified that there's an issue with the belt. So how do I get the belt off? Okay. With the lid lifted, okay, you're going to have it so that you can prop the lid on the back wall or on a cabinet or something. Okay. Then I'm going to take and there are 2 screws that are right about where the lid locks are. Those are 5/16. I am going to take my 5/16 nut driver. I'm going to make sure that I'm using a nut driver that has a magnet in it. I'm going to take those 2 5/16 screws out. I'm going to then the switch has a little clip that runs across the runs across the front of it. I'm gonna undo that clip. I'm gonna put both of those 3 pieces into a container that I know which screws these go to. I'm going to then I'm going to have to take and lift up on the drum itself, and I can now release the front. Okay, most of the time you can take once you do all this, I can just move my front over to the side and can get to it. Sometimes you can't. You just have to unplug the wires. If I'm going to unplug the wires, I'm going to take a picture just to be sure that I have them correct. Okay. So then once I do that, I can now get my belt. I'm going to take and straighten my belt out. And then I'm going to have to take and I'm going to have to take and run the belt over the motor, and then under the pulley, and that will give me my belt will be working properly. Okay. Does anybody? We're going to go back. I'm going to ask. Does anybody have any questions so far? I'm sorry. I have a mustache hair that's tickling my nose. Does anybody have any questions, guys? If you have a question, please go ahead and ask. I mean, this is basic dryer repair. So don't feel like you don't sit there with a question in your mind and you cannot figure out what it is. If you don't know, then ask, please. This class is to help you. So go ahead and ask any question that you have. Okay, looks like we don't have any questions. Okay. So if this all works, I'm going to have to check the timer. Okay. So I need to check power to the timer. And since we verified the push to start switch check, then you push the start switch, listen to see if you hear the motor windings, try to start. If not, check the power to the motor. And I can do that by pulling the wiring schematic again and finding those finding the wires that go down to the motor. Okay. If I have power to that, I'm gonna go and to the motor itself, and I'm going to check the motor to make sure that I actually have the continuity to the motor. by pressing the push to start switch again. Okay. Usually most of the time I can put my leads on either the Bolenex plug or the motor or the wire that goes to the lead. Okay. So I'm going to check all that. If that all checks, then I'm going to have to go and check the motor. Okay. Here's your typical dryer motor. How do I check a motor? How do I know that my motor is actually bad? Okay. So what do I do? The first thing I'm going to do, since I've already had to remove everything and get my access to my motor, I'm going to inspect my dryer blower. Okay, my blower. Then see if I have any obstructions. So I can just take and try to spin that to see if I can spin it. If I can't, then that could be my problem. I will tell you that I have found and believe it or not, it was a child's building block. Somehow she got shoved into the down in when the customer she had to have just taken and shoved it and made it push it down, and then it finally got free and it dropped down into the blower wheel, and it actually ended up taking the blower wheel and there was enough torque for the motor that it broke the blower wheel. Okay. If that happens, then you have a real problem. Most of the time I'm going to have to remove my motor, and I'm going to have to take the motor out to the truck because I need a vise to set the motor in so that I can actually take the blower wheel off, because once you try to pull those off, those are not easy. And I'm going to make a mess because I'm going to usually have to take a penetrating oil, lube that up, and then try to spin that motor off the bracket. I mean, off the wheel piece off the bracket itself, off the motor. So that is not a fun task. That gets into something that's expensive. A lot. So I have had one that I could not get it off to save my life. I actually took that motor to the shop, turned the motor up, put it in some penetrating oil overnight to be able to get it so that I could break it free. So most of the time, that is not something that you want to have to deal with. Like everybody knows, if I have to make a second trip to the house, it's going to be expensive. The motor, it's not really fortuitous for the customer to pay your labor and the price of the motor and the blower wheel. Usually, if I have a motor issue, and if it has the blower wheel is going to be on it, I'm going to go ahead and tell the customer what the cost is, and leave it up to the customer whether the customer wants to invest that in a dryer, or whether they want to just throw it away and get a new dryer. That's something I'm going to bring the customer in and show what the problem is and why. Okay, so here's an example. You know, I told you that there was a Molenex plug, or these are the wires that actually pull to it. Okay, so if I'm going to disconnect stuff with the motor wires, I'm going to take a picture of it. Okay, I am 64 years old. I have a pretty decent memory, but whenever I have something that has 6, 8 wires, I'm going to take a picture so that I make sure that I get every wire back where it belongs. Okay. This one only has 3 wires off the side that are bad. On this particular motor, if something happens and it's in that switch, I actually can replace that switch. This is old style motors. The one on the right is the new style motor. once again, I'm going to ohm through the switch to make sure that the switch is working properly. Okay. If I have the other style, which is the Mullinex style, that's over here on the right. That's a totally different thing. At this point, okay. At this point, I can do the same thing, but the only thing I can do with this one, this switch is not replaceable. Only the one on the left. I'm going to pull out my wiring schematic. I'm going to determine where the motor start and run windings are and where they go through the switch. Okay. If you look right here, there's an overload. The overload is coming in to the run winding and the start winding, and then of course the run the switch is in the starts in the start mode. From there, it will drop down and it will move to the run mode. Okay, so I have got to make sure that my switch is good. If something happens and I think that then I know that my switch is good and it checks out, I'm going to move over and check the overload. Okay, but let's talk about the run and the start portion of it. Okay, I'm going to isolate the run and the start and the run by detaching the two wires that go from the motor to it. You can see them right. There's one of them right here. The other one I'll show you in just a second. Okay, so I'm going to take and I'm going to use the lowest ohm setting, or I could use the signal, the sound. Okay, I'm going to use the black connector lead and touch the motor connector. You can see it right here on the bottom left-hand side. Okay, once I do that, I'm going to go and I'm going to connect it. I'm going to go to the red lead, which is going to the start windings. Okay, if those ohm out, then I am going to have to go and it should read between 2 and 5 ohms. Okay, then I go to the wind. Then I know that the start winding is good. Okay, if something happens, and that checks out. Then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the run windings, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to use the black wire goes to the black lead, and then the red wire goes to the run windings. Okay. If the meter shows between 2 and 5 ohms of resistance, the start windings are good. So I've got both that's the run windings. Sorry. Then the run windings are good. Okay. If they both show 2.5 ohms of resistance, then the motor should be functioning properly and that's an if the thermal fuse is any good. Okay. So how do I check the thermal fuse? I can take and check the thermal protector to make sure that the motor is receiving the voltage that it should get. Okay. So how am I going to do that? I'm going to disconnect the terminals from the connector. Okay. You can see the two terminals right here. You can tell that this wire used to be right here on the right-hand side. So I'm going to go between that wire, those two wires right there. Okay. I'm going to check between those two terminals, and the meter should still be set to the lowest ohm setting. Okay. The meter should read close to 0 ohms. That will tell me at this point that the thermal connector has no continuity. If I have that, then it tells me that the thermal connector is not any good. And most of the time, you're going to have to change the motor. Most of these thermal connectors are no longer where you can replace the thermal connector. Okay. All right. So you guys didn't have any questions so far. Let's go right now. Let's talk about questions. Testing a timer, what are you testing for? I can test the continuity that's supposed to be going through. I can also, at this point, if I need to, Charles, I can actually plug the unit in with the start depressed. I can go through and check. I can check for that the timer is sending power down to the motor. Did that answer your question? Okay, so guys, this was your basic. This is usually your basic 5 to 6 things you're going to check for a dryer to make sure that it should function. Okay, are there some times that you come back and you're scratching your head? You're wondering what in the world is going on. You're going to have some of these that will drive you crazy. Okay. So, but these are the basic things that I can check. Okay. If I've done all this and it all works and everything checks properly, I'm going to have to go and I'm going to have to go to the wiring schematic, and I'm going to have to literally go wire to wire to wire to wire to check it out. Okay, but these are the basic things that on a Whirlpool branded washer, I'm a dryer, that I should check to make sure that and this 99 times out of 100 will fix your problem. You will find that one of these 6 things is what the problem is. I really hope that I have answered all of your questions. Does anybody have any more questions? Okay, I don't see any more questions. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to talk about a program that you can use to improve your first time completes. This is a program that I wish that I had whenever I was a technician. Okay. Whenever with this program, this is an inventory control program. It doesn't cost you a dime. The only thing that it requires is that you have an account with Encompass. Okay. With my Encompass account, I can now track my parts. I can check to see if I have the parts on my truck. If I don't have the parts on my truck, I probably want to look at to see if I have the usage to put it on my truck. If it's one out of every 100 that I go on, I'm probably not going to put it on my truck. But as I have said before, this is something that you need to have, that you need to have, so that you can actually have first time completes. Okay, this program. Okay, if you look at the very bottom, it says Easy Stock from Apple or the Google Play Store. I can go and type in Easy Stock, and the program will come up. Like I said, I have to have an account with Encompass, so it's going to require me to have my account number. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to do all of this. I can also tell you that if you go to YouTube and you type in Encompass Easy Stock program, there are about 5 Easy Stock programs that come up. Okay, they range somewhere between I think 5 minutes and almost up to an hour. Okay, so it's just how far you want to dive into it. Okay. Easy Stock. Like I said, I wish that I had this. Oh man, whenever I owned my own business, that was in the late 70s, early 80s. We didn't have the internet. Okay, we literally, whenever I owned my own company, it was the cell phone that I had cost, just for me to use the cell phone, cost me an arm and a leg. I had a pager that the office used to call me on, and then I had to go find a a a, a payphone. Try that today. You'll never find a payphone, although I know where one is right now. But you don't find payphones a lot. Okay, but with this program, I can go and I can track my parts. Okay, I should know if I like whenever I owned my own company. Okay, I had parts in my truck, and then I had parts in my garage. Okay, at one point I had an area that I was running a whole lot, and I actually got a storage area, a little small storage area, and I used to keep the parts for that area in that little storage location. Okay, so how do I know what parts I need? Well, I can actually go to the Encompass app. I can look and see I can download my most frequently used parts. Okay, I can take that list. Once I have now gone through, I can now take that list and say, these are my fast moving parts. I have two options. One is I probably have to run this program every single day to make sure that my parts usage and my stock of parts is good. Or what I can do is I can set Easy Stock up so that if I get below a certain number, I can actually have this Easy Stock program order for me, and it shows up in 2 days in the mail, or sometimes it's only 1 day. Okay, it all depends on how you have it set up. Okay, Encompass is usually able to deliver parts within 2 days, unless they're out of stock. If you have a part and it's in stock at Encompass, it should come to you in at least 2 days. If something happens and I need that part right then, I can actually order it and have it waiting on me at the Encompass location if I'm close enough. If I'm in Dallas, or if I'm in Lawrenceville, Georgia, or Dallas, Texas. They have 7 locations. If I'm in one of those areas, I'm set. Okay, I'm great. If not, usually I can get my parts within 2 days. Okay, that is something that Encompass strives to be the best at. Is you're having the right parts at the right time. Okay, so I now have set my fast moving parts so that if something happens and I drop below a certain level, it automatically orders. It shows up. In my case, it was at my house. The person that was running the office would actually go in and would go out, and it would be delivered to her, and she would actually go out and put it on the scan it in, and then she would scan it. She would have scanned it in using the Encompass part supply app and show it in whatever location that she said that it was in. And then if something happened and I go to the truck and I don't have it, I know for a fact where it's supposed to go. Or if I'm if it's at my storage location that I had, I would actually go by, pick it up, and drop it at my storage location. Okay, these are all ways that I can try as a technician. I can try to get a first time complete. Am I still going to going to have the occasional part that I have to go back and order? Yes. Okay. But what I did was if I didn't have the part on my truck, and today, here's what I would do. I would at least call the office and say, or I would go to my Encompass app and order it. Or if I'm booked and I can't get through, I could always call the office and say, hey, I need you to order these parts. Okay. So let's say that Encompass did not have the part that I needed. Okay. As long as I have a barcode, what I can do is I can actually scan that barcode. Okay. I will take and scan that barcode into the Encompass app. Doesn't matter where I bought it. It could have been, I could have had to get it from Whirlpool. I could have had to have gotten it from another parts house. Doesn't matter. I can, as long as it has a barcode, I can scan that into my Encompass app. So if you don't have it, if you don't have the Encompass app and then you go and get the Encompass app, you can scan all of your parts as long as they have a barcode, and I know exactly where they are. Okay. What happens is it's great because I can section off my van. It's my van. Okay. So actually I drove a truck. So I had a toolbox on the left, a toolbox in the center, and a toolbox on the right. Okay. It was a U shape, which really cut down my bed capacity, but that's a different story. Okay. But I could go out and I could look and I could label the one that was on the left side of my truck. I could label that A. And the one that was in the center, I would label that B. The one that's on the right side, I could label that C. And then it would subdivide. And, in that area, I only had what I could put down in the toolbox itself. And I've had dividers in there. So it would be 1, 2, 3, 4 dividers in the toolbox itself. And then I would know exactly where that location was. So what does that do for me as a technician? This makes it so that whenever I go to the customer's house, if it's not a fast moving part, let's say I only use 3 or 4 every 3 months. Okay. So it's not a fast moving part, but I can still keep track of it and keep inventory. Because if I run out of it, I'm having to come back out and I'm losing money. And if I do that enough, I go out of business. Okay. As a technician, I have got to make sure that I have as many first-time completes as I can. Okay. Whenever I used to work for Best Buy, Circuit City, I was graded on how many first-time completes that I had. Okay. If I dropped below a certain number of first-time completes, I was actually brought into the office and we had to sit down and had a conversation with the manager about why my first-time completes are low. If I'm a businessman and I own my own business, I've got to keep track of my first-time completes. If I don't, I'm going to go out of business. Okay. So first-time completes are the lifeblood of a technician. I've got to have as many as I can. So the Easy Stock program helps me maintain those parts and the locations that those parts are in. So not only that, let's say that I now have 4 technicians. If something happens and I want to check and see if maybe I'm going to give you a perfect example, an air sled. Okay. Air sleds are down to about $800. Okay. Another example is an oven dolly. Okay. Both of those are expensive. I finally found a guy that had one that he was going to that I tried to get him to give it to me, even though I don't do those anymore. I was going to buy it because that's something you can always use. The guy only wanted $100 for it, or maybe it was $50. Maybe it's $50, and because he was getting out of the business, and I was like, well, I'll take that. That's a part that I can always use. But that, I've got to keep track of that and know where that part is. So I've got 5 technicians. I need to know who has that part on the truck, because if you lose a $800 air sled, that takes a big dent into my profit margin. Okay, so I can take and track that on the Encompass using the Encompass Easy Stock program. I can track that part knowing where it's at. I can make people check it in and check it out. If I show that you have it and you tell me, oh, I don't have it, I can't find it, never saw it. Yeah, I returned that. That's will be the what you get back as a business owner. I returned that. Well, right here in the Easy Stock program, it shows that you've got it. That means that you didn't check it back in. So that tells me that you lost it somewhere. And now we have to have a conversation on how we're going to replace this. Okay. This program is so good. I can't spend enough time talking about how it would have improved my life as a technician. Okay. So, does anybody have any questions about Easy Stock? If you do, go to that YouTube site, type in Encompass Easy Stock program. Okay, you have to put Encompass. If you don't, you come up with a list of about 50 other things, and it has nothing to do with this Encompass Easy Stock program. But I'm telling you, this is the best thing since sliced bread. It doesn't cost me anything. If I use Encompass at all, I'm a moron if I don't have it. Okay. I've got so much, pardon my expression, I've got so much crap on my phone. If I didn't have this Easy Stock program, I would delete something that I got. I could delete one of my solitaire games that I have and put this Easy Stock program on it. Now I know where my parts are. I can keep track of my parts. I can have it I can reorder my parts if they go down below a certain level. I'm telling you, this program, it's better than sliced bread. Okay. I'm going to get off my high horse or my soapbox on this one. If you guys have any questions, my information is scrolling across the bottom of the screen. Okay. Reggie's information is scrolling across the bottom of the screen. If you're going to call me, even though it's gotten a whole lot better since the election is over, go ahead and send me a text message at that phone number or email me. Either one. I get phone calls and I get emails and I get text messages all day long. If you don't take care of and you don't want to talk to me, call Reggie, text Reggie. I'm telling you, this Easy Stock thing, better than sliced bread. Everybody, I will talk to you later. Everybody have a wonderful day. Thank you again. I see that my green screen is not working again for some reason. And it's not, I know what it is. Okay. So everybody have a wonderful day. Thank you very much. Please be safe out there. We will talk to you later. Bye now.